wingers don't trust Jews. Like right-wing anti-Semites think Jews control the world, run the banks, have a secret plan to destroy the world. But for left-wingers, it's a lot more opaque, and I think their issue is more that they arrive at anti-Semitic conclusions and anti-Semitic sentiments completely by accident. Uh, so, okay, I'm trying to think of how to explain this in a quick way, but the way I think it works, and I'm still kind of mulling this over time. I think since the Cold War ended, I think a lot of like revolutionary communists or tankies or whatever ended up kind of lost. They didn't really have a story anymore because the big bastion of anti-capitalism was gone, right? So once that was done, I think people felt like they were in a position where, okay, well, we're not going to get global communism anytime soon. Like the great superpower war is done. But what we can support is anything that kind of threatens the global capitalist order. I think like in Chairman Mao's little red book, I think he literally says, anything that is good for the enemy is bad for us. And anything that's bad for the enemy is good for us, which seems really irrational, but it's not that irrational by their own logic, because you ever heard like sort of like communists say things like, oh, every time there was an attempted revolution around the world, it was squashed by the West.
Every
Right?
time, yeah.
Containment. Yeah. And to an extent that did happen. Like that was US policy, was containment, stop it spreading at all costs. So it makes sense to think that if the only way that communism is going to have a chance of flourishing again is if the global capitalist order is like pushed out of the way. So anything that undermines that gives a bit of space for alternatives. And this has been kind of like part of their doctrine for the last 100 years. Even in Weimar Germany, like the German Communist Party, their number one enemy was not the Nazis. It was the Social Democrats. They called the Social Democrats social fascists. They basically, at certain points, actually aligned with Nazis on particular issues to try and get the Social Democrats dislodged from power. When it happened when the Nazis took over in 1933, the party line from the Communist Party backed by the Soviets was that, like, basically this is good. This is good that the illusion of liberal democracy and social democracy is out of the way. And this Nazi thing is just a kind of blip. And then after that, the workers are going to rise to class consciousness and we'll have a revolution, like a Soviet Germany. So they maintained that line up until the mid-30s when they were getting killed, right?
Right. So how does that lead into anti-Semitism, where they're like, it's basically an anti-Western philosophy?
Well, now that you're far left, and if you're far left and you don't really have much of a story after the Cold War, then Israel-Palestine as a far leftist kind of gives you everything you want in a story, right? It gives you oppressors and oppressed. It gives you European settlers versus non-white natives. It gives you East versus West. It doesn't give you capitalism versus communism, but it does give you the great capitalist powers versus something else. So it's a big focal point for a lot of things that leftists care a lot about. And when you can, and for a lot of very complicated reasons, people get fairly disproportionately obsessed with that particular issue. And if the goal is like, if we see that Israel and America are kind of like representatives of the global capitalist Western order, then sometimes people who don't really have that much else to support in the world in terms of communism or anti-Westernism is they'll find themselves eventually accidentally falling into supporting groups that oppose Israel, even if they are some of the most rabid anti-Semites in the world, like the IRGC or the Houthis or Hezbollah. And I think that's more or less what happens. I think they hate Israel because Israel is backed by the West, and if that means tolerating the anti-Semitism of Houthis, Hezbollah, etc., that's kind of just worth it. And if it also means occasionally repeating their propaganda points or whitewashing their anti-Semitism, then so be it.
That makes sense, because